something happening in our own backyard here in Nashville, the Under Armour camp. And, there was in between rain showers, the talent was really on display over at Lipscomb in this invite-only showcase. And Tom, really one of the top prospects in attendance was Bama Edge commit Jamarion Matthews. We want to learn a little bit more about him, but I have to ask Cooper because you're the one that named him, you and our crew named him the Alpha Dog. So what was it about his performance in particular that really stood out among the others?
Just a dominant performance in one-on-ones. And really, I mean, like I hate to say that, but when you're in a combine setting, the one-on-ones are really important. That's one of the only times you're going to get to see these guys go up against each other, and you see it here. I mean, this frame, 6'2", 240 pounds, and I think a lot of people look at Jamarion Matthews and say, all right, it's just a speed-to-power guy. But in the last 3 reps, you saw him win 3 different ways, whether it's speed, whether it's quickness, whether it's powers. So this is a guy with a ton of production, 17 sacks last season, 29 tackles for loss. He just showed up. He did his thing in a workman-type performance from him and Jamarion Matthews. And typically when we think about Alabama edges, you're thinking about long guys that can bend the edge, what the Will Anderson types of the world. Jamarion Matthews is a little bit of a throwback. I think he'll fit in perfectly there in Tuscaloosa.
And just a quick note on the recruiting process for him. Committed to Alabama. He's from Alabama, transferred to Gainesville, Georgia this year. Very, very strong, much strongly considering Auburn still. Penn State as well. So, I mean, if you're an Alabama fan, get fired up. He's an alpha dog. He's great. He's a stock-up guy. But, I mean, he comes from a family of Auburn Tigers fans, so it's gonna be dicey moving forward.
That was probably a tough initial decision for him to make, but
he didn't tell his mom until the day he committed because he didn't know what the reaction was. But she kind of knew it was coming. He said, so it was pretty interesting.
It's all right. Mom will get on board and
She'll be
support,
all right.
but there's also many months to go until the early signing period in December. So definitely someone to keep their eye on. Okay, 3-star quarterback Femi Babalola. He's from nearby Ravenwood High School, but something that I found interesting that Coop said about him that I want your perspective on is that you compared his build and his throwing mechanics to the number 1 player in the class, Faison Brandon. So, Tom, what do you think of that comparison watching?
I mean, I was standing right next to him when he said it, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, just looking at him, the frame, the build, I mean, he looks like Faison. I know, shout out Clara, she like took offense to that. But the way he throws it, I mean, he throws at such a high level. He's a phenomenal kid. He's just a guy that I had spoke to some sources, connected with some schools that were top contenders for him, like BC, Georgia Tech, NC State, UCF. I mean, he was just offered by Maryland, and they're raving about this kid. They're saying that they were a little surprised that he kind of split time last year. They think he's going to be a guy that's just kind of skyrocketing up recruiting boards. Side note, he said he really wants an offer from Arizona. I'm not really sure what the connection was, but he kind of lit up talking about the Wildcats. But the one that I think could make an impact, and I know they have a commitment from, I believe, Tate Reynolds, but Clemson is the one that he seemed to really start gushing about, that he wants an offer from the Tigers. So it'll be very interesting. But after seeing Femi for the first time, I mean, I'm fired up. I think that the Elite 11 coming to town, I think next month, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
The production at Ravenwood last year, it left a little bit to be desired, but it was one of those guys you watch the tape and you're like, man, the talent is just kind of like, it keeps you coming back. So seeing him live, this first exposure, was something that we were really excited about. I didn't know what to expect, but he came out, he performed well, and it was a windy day. For whatever reason, it seems like every time we go out to one of these combines for these quarterbacks, it's really windy. But he did a really good job, and he was able to showcase his arm talent, the ability to throw at all 3 levels, especially the deep third. And believe me, he's got a ways to go in certain areas, but in terms of the physical makeup, this is what everybody's looking for. The other part of this, too, is the spring contact period starts April 15th, which means these college coaches are going to be able to go on the road, get to see guys like Femi Babalola throw live and in person. And for those Power 4 teams that are kind of getting down to their second, their third, their fourth option, this is going to be a name that pops because he has the physical makeup as one of those guys that you would recruit as a primary option. Now, people are going to see the jump in production as a senior. That being said, once you get around him, and the wiring as well, there's a lot of things that you can take away that are very, very positive from yesterday, and then the body of work needs to come together. But just in terms of where I think the future is for a guy like Femi Babalola, I think this is going to be a name here over the next couple months that's going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, so this was your first exposure to him. If you want to see him again, They take football very seriously over at Ravenwood High School, so you can go check out some games there this fall. We'll see what he does in his senior season. Somebody else that you wanted to mention is wide receiver Joel Wyatt. We have him as the number 5 wide receiver, but you mentioned him as just this great athlete. What do you think after seeing him in person?
We don't know what he is. Is he a receiver? Is he a DB? Andrew Ivins, the rest of the scouting team, and I have gone back and forth on this. And this was a guy yesterday, like when you're a top 50 player, you're going to be scrutinized and you're going to be under a microscope. And yesterday was a lot of peaks and valleys. I think the pass catching ability has a ways to go. You can see it here. It kind of fights the ball a little bit. The ball will get into his body. But in terms of the athlete, Joel Wyatt, the mover, the ability to create separation, he is a super easy mover. I called him a flawless mover. So I love his ability to separate. Those are traits that you can't coach at the receiver position. The other part of this, it's also really hard to find guys that are 6'4", 195 pounds on defense. We've only seen guys like Dejon Lee, who's a completely different player from a play style standpoint than Joel Wyatt. But that being said, we know he's one of the most dynamic, polarizing athletes in all the country. Whether or not he's going to end up on offense or defense, we don't know. He's listed as a receiver right now. It's probably going to change pretty soon. He'll probably be moved to athlete. That being said, it was a positive takeaway because the biggest thing is you just want to see how he moves. The other part you can kind of figure out down the road.
Yeah, and on the recruiting front, I mean, unless something changed, as of yesterday, he was going to be in North Carolina today. First time meeting Bill Belichick, first time getting to Chapel Hill, so very excited about that trip. But I'm kind of giving the edge to Tennessee at this point. Vandy's definitely in play. Auburn, LSU, he's got some visits he wants to take. But push comes to shove with how hard Tennessee's recruiting him. He's starting to develop a relationship with Faison Brand and some other guys in the class. I think they're doing a great job. I think he's going to be of all.
Somebody who does play on the defensive side that we want to mention is cornerback Caden Harris, the number 4 player in the state of Tennessee. What did you think from him this weekend?
He immediately stood out in drills. I mean, he looked a little different. What I liked most about him is that he was first in the line. He wanted to take those initial reps. He's super smooth. He's long. He's athletic. I had spoke to some coaching sources a while back about him, just trying to get some intel on his recruitment. And they mentioned Notre Dame, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, Vanderbilt, all doing a great job. But the one thing they kept saying was that this kid is a surefire, closer to a 5-star than not. They were raving about him, a guy that's going to play right away no matter where he goes, and just an exceptional kid. Great to deal with, great family. A lot to like about Caden Harris.
Yeah, not to sound weird, but he's got beautiful hips. When you watch him, that's kind of like the first thing that kind of comes out. Well, he's so fluid. He's very much in sync. Everything about him, he's on a string, the way that he moves in terms of the foot quickness, the hip mobility and flexibility. This is a guy, just in terms of the man-to-man match defender capability, that's really hard to find. He's got a mature game. I think the other thing you saw there listed at 160 pounds, he carried his weight a lot better, kind of seeing him this past weekend. I think he's probably up to 170, 175 pounds. So that was kind of one maybe hesitation that we had. Seeing him a year later, he was at the same event last year. He continues to mature very, very, very well. So big fan of him. And I will say this, the state of Tennessee, I couldn't be more impressed with the talent that they put out. Every year it just seems more and more and more. In my region, I have Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, and it seems like Tennessee more so recently is on par with Alabama and Mississippi, who per capita are some of the best in the country.
I love it. That is just a taste of what they saw this weekend at the UA Next camp here in Nashville, Tennessee. If you want more of their coverage, both of these guys wrote some great stories recapping everything that happened this weekend. You can read all about it on 247sports.com.